Hi, I'm Nikhil Nanivadekar. I'm a project lead of Eclipse Collections. I'm also a Java champion. Mid 2014, I started using IntelliJ IDEA. And the reason why I started using IntelliJ IDEA is at that time I started contributing to GS Collections. GS Collections was the former name of Eclipse Collections, while it was open sourced under the Goldman Sachs repository. But when we moved from Goldman Sachs repository to the Eclipse Foundation, it was renamed as Eclipse Collections. So essentially, I started using IntelliJ IDEA when I started contributing to Eclipse collections, or then called GS collections. And here's the interesting thing. Uh, for me to switch over from the Eclipse IDE to IntelliJ IDEA, it took about 2 or 3 days to actually get familiar with the like lay of the land. And then I was absolutely blown away by the productivity that I was gaining. That towards the end of that month, my entire team were sort of hooked onto IntelliJ, and everyone moved over. So, I would say I have been, a user as well as pretty much an advocate of IntelliJ IDEA since 2014. Additionally, even though it's called Eclipse Collections, it has nothing to do with the Eclipse IDE. And the interesting thing is I use IntelliJ to actually code for Eclipse collections. So that's few of the nuances. So the very first one is the navigation ability. The whole idea that I can just do Control Shift N and then go to whichever class that I want, including the package name like playground, and go there. That's terrific. And second favorite feature of mine, my left, like the project navigation pane, that is actually in dark, but my editor pane is the light theme, and the editor has special colors. And this was actually the color scheme was built by one of the Eclipse collections committers, Craig Motlin, and all of us just reused that. But the whole idea is that because I have a nice contrast between sort of the navigation pane, which is an unnecessary noise, I can actually focus properly on the code itself, because the code is in light. So it helps me zone in as well as it helps me focus. So those were my two features which I use in the first 10 seconds of using IntelliJ IDEA: the navigation and the color schemes. There are many things which I like about IntelliJ IDEA. I'll name three. The very first one is the personalization of the color scheme, and again, this is fairly important, especially when I'm reading code and when I'm writing code. And why, I'll explain it to you. So if you see here, like int is actually in the same color as private because it's a primitive, but string, it's an implementation. That's why it's in red. Okay. Now, if I were to use an interface like a list, right? Then you will see that the list, the interface part is actually blue in color. And again, this was a custom theme which was set up by one of the Eclipse collections committers. So I'm not taking any credit for it. I'm just using what he created, and it actually helps me be more productive. And using these personalized color schemes, I just know how to navigate the code and like be in the flow of the code of what is happening much more faster. Like, because there are different things, like for example, I think I have a class called as abstract multimap. uh, Let me see. Yeah, or I can even go here. Sorry. But if you see here, the multi-map part, which is there, that one has an underline, like a dotted underline. So with these nuances, it helps me quickly understand what I'm working with, whether I'm working with an interface or whether I'm working with an implementation. And this especially helps in code reviews. Like if someone has written something like this, now I'm giving a very naive example. If someone says array list equal to new array list. Generally, by the effective Java principles, you actually don't want your implementation on the left side. Your left side should always be an interface. So it helps me catch like errors like this or issues like these. So that is my first favorite feature, which is the different color schemes. And the second favorite feature, which I would say, is the insert. So if you see here, I can actually code generate most of the things. Like I can code generate the constructor. I understand that when records are like released, this will be sort of a very redundant feature or like not necessary. But that said, most of the times we still will need to create constructors or getters and setters. And the beauty of this is, yeah, if I look at the IntelliJ, if I look at generating equals and hash codes, I can essentially, select what I'm trying to do. It gives me all the personalization abilities. So let me just go ahead and like click finish so that I can show the next favorite feature of mine. So I'm just going to create a toString, and like one of the favorite features, and the one which I used all the time, is this block select mode. So using the block select mode, I can quickly edit what exactly I want to do. Like for example, you want to have pluses on the next line. You can of course configure it, but if you don't want to configure it and this is like a one-time thing, you can quickly go on fixing these things, as and when required. So using the block select mode, the same, along with the same theme, you can actually have multiple cursors at like different places. So let's say I have like first name here and I only care about the last name here, right? And then I want to put it out here near the city. I can actually do that, and all of them will move they will honor their respective movement, so to say. And last but not the least, many a times it ends up happening while debugging or while reading code. You are you want to refer to something which is happening in the exact same class. So just for example, I have this abstract class and I want to see what's happening like somewhere down the line, and I want to refer to both the parts at the exact same time. Now when you split it, you can actually both of these panes honor their own scrolling. So at the exact same time, I can be at like line 39 and I can look at like what's happening with line 14. And um, this happens when like you're dealing with like a lot of legacy code, and where like you really don't have any control, and you're trying to follow what is happening at different parts. And like, sometimes you get like a long method, and then it's difficult to keep track of where what is happening. So this style navigation like absolutely helps, because I can work on the same class in two different panes, and then both of them update at the same time. So that's stunning. One of the features which I cannot absolutely live without is the live templates, and I'll explain why. So let's go to this class. It's called bag, and if you see this is one of the classes which I actually implement during one of my presentations. And interestingly, I gave the same presentation called as Do It Yourself Collections for JetBrains Technology Day for Java. Now, this is a fairly simple, iteration pattern. But if you see, uh, sometimes in the pressure while presenting, or like the nervousness, something is not working, etc., etc., it happens that I forget how exactly the constructor is implemented. So for that, I always have live templates set up. And just to show a few of the features of the live templates, I'm just going to build out a live template live, because hey, demoing code is like the best thing according to me. So let me I can create a template group, and generally I have a template group called as presentations. And inside that, I'm just going to create a live template. And my abbreviation over here, I'm just going to say bag constructor. Okay. And what this gives me is construct. back. So what this gives me is this abbreviation I can use in order to essentially, autocomplete this code. You always have to define the context, and in this case, it's only going to be Java. There are a few more interesting things which I want to show, but I'll show that like in a second when I'm demoing the live template itself. So a few things. One is, now because I have the live template available, I don't essentially have to, remember how the back constructor is, implemented in case I run into issues, I have a compiler error, or I can't debug. I can just like, say back constructor and hit tab. Now, interestingly, you will see that the live template which I created, it's not actually attaching to the same format as what rest of the class is. So I can always do Control Alt L in Windows to reformat it. Or the other option, especially for live templates, is and this is pretty cool, is you can actually say reformat according to the style. Okay, so let me apply and click OK, and let's see what happens with the once I do that. So let's look at back constructor. Now, if you see, previously it was all, formatted like in an incorrect way because it was preserving the spaces and everything. Now, because I created the reformat option, I checked off the reformat option, it formatted the code exactly the way it was. And believe it or not, like IntelliJ IDEA has some, inbuilt live templates as well, like for I. So you can create an index-based for loop. You have iter as well, which is the iterator. Basically it creates a for each loop. So on and so forth. So I would say live templates are absolutely a productivity boost, so to say. I would say the Git integration, and the reason why I don't use it every day is because I just rely on the command line to, and again it is open out here as well, where I just end up using the command line for my all the Git interactions when I'm using, when I'm contributing to open source. All or sometimes when I have like a very weird rebase that I need to do, and that's not because like in like any of the integration is bad on IntelliJ. It's just because I personally am more comfortable using the command line for Git stuff, and I know what can go wrong when I'm doing the command line because I have gone wrong so many times. So it's just the comfort level. That's why. I won't be able to, nail it down to just one. So I'm at least going to tell you three. Let's do this. I'm quickly going to actually implement, a method called as name. Okay, and not the first name, just the name. And this is going to simply return first name plus a space and last name. Okay, now here's the interesting thing. You can see that like there are a few underlines out here. Okay, and that's because my inspections are kicking in, where my inspections basically say that like it's an instance field, so you should you should qualify it with this. Now the interesting thing is I can press Alt Enter, and I can either go on like cleaning one at a time, or I can press Alt Enter and just say clean up code, and that will like clean up all the code in the entirety of the class, right? And that's the interesting thing, because now with just one click, I cleaned up the entire class. And if you didn't observe, let me do Control Z once more and show like, so these could be final, and IntelliJ IDEA is actually telling me that like, hey, it can be final. So I didn't have to go fix or clean up code one at a time. I could just clean up the whole class in one go. Okay, so that's one feature which I absolutely love and makes me be super productive, because in one click everything gets cleaned out. The second one in the is reformatting and optimizing imports, but I think that everyone understands and knows. The next one which I want to show is actually the shortcut Control Shift T, because what Control Shift T does is it actually allows you to create tests if a test doesn't exist. As you can see, this is a newly created class, so I still have not written a test or anything. I can create a new test, and the beauty of it is like it will give me all the options that I need to choose. I can set up like tear down, etc., etc. I'm just going to make this JUnit 4 compatible, and I'm also going to create a test for the name method which was created, right? So let us do okay, and I don't need to add it to git right now. So here's the interesting thing. Now the person test was created newly. Now if you see, IntelliJ IDEA was smart enough, and actually, you know what, in order for a more effective demo, I'm just going to delete that again. And so see here, I do not have a package called as a playground. Okay. And I'm going to go and create a test again. Okay, Control Shift T, create new test, and let's do JUnit 4 name, and okay. IntelliJ IDEA actually creates the package as well for you, so you don't have to go here, right click, create like the package, and then create the test. Everything is done itself for you, so that helps you be more productive. Now that said, let's go to the next feature. I'm just going to quickly create a new person, okay, out here. And if you see, IntelliJ IDEA prompts you with the parameters, right? So I don't have to keep on understanding what exactly needs to go where. Of course I can do Control P, and then I know that it is first name, last name, age, city. Control P is a shortcut to see the parameters. So let's do first name Nikhil. And you can see that IntelliJ IDEA is actually starting to fill up everything. 33, and city is Houston. Okay. And while I was typing, I also used one of the other shortcuts, and the shortcut was Control Shift Enter. That that stands for Smart Complete. So if I were to just do Control Z again, 33, which is the age, and then Houston. Now, what Smart Complete allows me to do is I don't have to hit end or scroll towards the end and then press a semicolon. IntelliJ IDEA just goes to the end, puts a semicolon, and completes that statement. The next one is I can actually just do .var and create a variable. So let's say it's person. Now what I want to do is I want to write an assertion where I want to say assert dot assert equals, and in this case the name is going to be Nikhil Nanivadekar. This is an important thing again, like it's showing me that hey, expected is on the left hand side, and after that it's the actual one. So because many a times you see in code where actual and expected are flipped, and it causes a complete nightmare while debugging. So all right, so this is the case, right? Like it shows person dot get name. Now let's say I have so this test should pass, but let me introduce a bug real quick, and then I can show you the next feature. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce a typo out there. I do Control Shift F10, which stands for run, and I can run that, and it actually fails. So over here I see the actual and the expected. Now, the interesting thing is I know that hey, something is wrong in the name or in the expectation, right? So I can inspect without having to jump in the code. I can actually stay where I am and see how the method is implemented by using Control Shift I. So when I press Control Shift I get the method definition out there itself, and that applies for literally every single thing. I can go to person and I can do Control Shift I, and I can see the entire method out there. And this is super useful because hey, you don't have to keep on jumping. Like you don't have to go here, then go back, go here, then go back, and then fix something, because sometimes you keep on scratching your head and you keep on losing context. So by this giving you the smart inspection, it's super cool. uh, Last but not the least, I am going to implement a sort of a interesting method, and you will see why I'm implementing that in a second. Public boolean is voter. Okay. Now this is fairly straightforward, where we say return this dot age greater than or equal to 18. Then it makes it then the person is a voter, right? Now what I want to do is, instead of creating, so add test. Oh, by the way, I don't have to type add test, so I can just go back here and I can do Control Shift T, and I can actually create. I can choose in which class I want to create the test. So going back to one of the features which I absolutely like. So if you see here, the interesting thing is I can do a Control C, okay, and I'm going to do a Control C out here in person. Let's just change it to person 1, okay. Now, and we don't have anything, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the exact same person, but just change the ages, okay. So I can just do Control, this, and then uh, I can go and change it over here. But you know what? That is fairly slow. So what you can actually do is you can just go on duplicating it over and over again. And then you can, going back to the multiple cursors that I had shown. Now I'm putting 2 cursors out here, and I can change this all together, okay? And I can change this to be, whatever I want. But interestingly, let's say I don't even want to do that. Let's say I I just want to change one at a time. I can do that as well. And I mean, I know that it's sort of a bad thing that like it's just going to go on doing this. But when you're writing a test case, it sort of makes it helpful, that you can increment stuff fairly easily. The other thing which I absolutely like is the copy buffer. So if I do, instead of a Control V, which is when I copy this, it's going to just copy this, just paste this. Instead of doing Control V, if I do Control Shift V, it gives me the copy buffer. So if you see here, previously I had copied this, everything. So I can essentially, get all the data from my copy buffer, and that copy buffer is, it's across the board. So if you have copied something elsewhere, that also, helps. And Control Shift V, let's say you don't want this, you can actually delete that as well by just pressing the delete button. So fairly interesting thing. Now let's go back to the feature which I wanted to show, and this is the last feature because I covered the copy buffer as well. But the next feature which I wanted to show was essentially, you know the the debugger. And the debugger is fairly interesting because person 3, I should have created less number of persons, but it's fine. uh, person 5, person 6, person 7, person 8. All right, and we are going to create this as people. And now I'm going to say that assert equals, uh, let's say I'm going to say true, and I want to make sure that everyone in my domain, so people, dot all satisfy, uh, person colon is voter. All right. Now here's the interesting thing. Uh, I know that this is going to fail. So let it, okay, perfect. It failed. I can put a debugger out here. Okay. Once I put a debugger, let me just quickly, debug this. And that's when I'll be able to show uh, my favorite feature. And the favorite feature is smart step in. So if I press F7, you actually get the ability to smart step in where exactly you want to go in. So like because this line has multiple methods, I can choose whether I want to go in all satisfy or whether I want to go in is voter. And that becomes super important when you have, like, in functional programming, when you have chain method calls. I just care about going into is voter. What's happening there? Let's see. Okay, it's age is 18 and age is 33, and that's why it's returning. And you can keep on continuing. And the beauty of it is, like, if you ever forget the shortcut, you can always, like, just look at them in the in the debug tool. But now comes the last but not the least. You can actually drop frames. and you can go back to what happened. And this becomes super important when you're debugging like a huge method call, and then you suddenly you execute it by mistake, and you always have to start from start. But if you can just drop frame, you can actually rewind your execution, so that becomes pretty cool. My personal story is as you saw while I was demoing, I did use a little bit of the mouse, but in my day-to-day job, like I absolutely do not like to use the mouse. I prefer using the keyboard and doing everything via keyboard. And the way IntelliJ IDEA is structured is it's super nice and very well configured while using the keyboard shortcuts. So when being productive, the best part of it was that like I was able to set up the live templates on the fly, sometimes even during presentations, or sometimes before the presentations. And many a times when you forget something, I mean, even if if you have presented the same thing over and over again, still you there are many times that you just blank out. And at that time, like IntelliJ IDEA, the live templates act help me remember what had gone wrong. Once while I was presenting, I completely blanked out, and I didn't know what next had to happen, and by mistake I actually deleted some of the files which I needed for my presentation. uh, IntelliJ has the local history option. So what I did was, and believe it or not, you can actually look at the local history of the entire project. And because you can look at the entire history of the entire project, or at a package level, or at a file level, I was able to restore that file. And that file wasn't pushed to Git or anything. And this was while I was still creating my presentation. I didn't lose my all the work that I had done just because I hit delete. So that, according to me, was like one of the awesome things, because hey, I did not lose like my 2 hours of work that I had done. uh, but there are many stories, and one of the biggest things is when someone sees you use the keyboard and type out and use different shortcuts and different features. They immediately gravitate towards the fact that hey, that's cool, what did you do, can you show it to us? And that led to me actually sometimes helping the team, or doing a lunch and learn or a brown bag session, where all I was doing was just showing the IntelliJ shortcuts and of how I use IntelliJ. And I'm even if I'm able to help one person be productive because of showing all of these things, I think as collective, I've actually helped all of us, right? Because then it's sort of a very it's paying it forward kind of a thing. So